Kissed a Girl starts Sunday at 9 on BBC Three and iPlayer.
5 intrepid duos race from Japan to Indonesia.
Mum, speed up!
Gonna race to win it?
Yes!
Flipping it. Absolutely bonkers.
Go, go, go!
Race across the world continues tomorrow at 9 on BBC One and iPlayer.
I'm trying. I'm making the same mistakes over and over again.
What have you got me into?
Do not think of taking that girl away from me because she's all I've got left.
They've taken Chris. Everyone here just wants to make some money.
Who's this fella calling the shots?
What are you going to do?
I'm scared. It's all my mate.
The new series of The Responder starts Sunday at 9 on BBC One and iPlayer.
Now, the BBC News at 10 with Sophie Raworth.
Tonight at 10, on the rampage with a sword in East London, a 14-year-old boy is killed and 4 others are injured. A man has been arrested after the attack early this morning. And this, the moment that he was finally cornered by police with tasers.
The 36-year-old man is due to be questioned as people living here in East London are reeling in shock from the sword attacks this morning.
Also tonight, the King returns to public duties, meeting cancer patients at a hospital in London. He tells one that his diagnosis was a shock. 2 men in their 30s are charged with causing criminal damage after the famous Sycamore Gap tree was felled in Northumberland. Attacked with water cannon, we report on the tactics being used by the Chinese in disputed waters off the Philippines as they try to drive other ships out.
On BBC London, a community in shock after a knifeman goes on a rampage in Hainault, killing a 14-year-old boy and injuring 4 others.
Good evening. A 14-year-old boy has been killed and a number of others, including 2 police officers, have been injured after a man went on a rampage with a sword in northeast London early this morning. Police say the attack was not believed to be targeted or terrorism related. They were called after a van was driven at speed into a house just before 7 o'clock this morning. A 36-year-old man is in custody tonight but is not well enough to be questioned. From Hainault, our special correspondent Lucy Manning reports.
As he climbed over the fence, this was the dramatic and courageous moment the police finally brought the sword attacker to the ground. 2 officers firing tasers as he still wielded his sword. "22 minutes after they were called, the police arrested the 36-year-old after chasing him around the streets here, putting their own safety to one side. Earlier, the bravery of another police officer, toe-to-toe with the suspect as he brandishes his sword. Words exchanged, but he doesn't surrender. Police cars stream in, but the man takes off, officers not hesitating to follow him. Frightened in their homes, other footage shows him crouching down at people's windows.
A grey transit van pulled up. The man got out with a samurai sword. He's tried to talk to one female resident. She ran away from him. As he's pulled the sword out in the air, she's tried to warn the other neighbour. As he's turned around, he's been struck in the head. He was running around, still after the police officers came with the sword in his hand, looking for victims.
Come here! Drop the sword!
Officers corner him on a garage roof.
Come this way! Can you still see him? Yeah. Oi! He's going in people's gardens, man. Lock your doors! Lock your Boss!
Manpreet witnessed the attack and the moment officers stopped him.
People who were trying to fight the guy, they ran towards the station, and one of the guys got stabbed in the neck, and he was holding his neck like that, and he was like, I've been stabbed, I've been stabbed. He tried to enter somebody's house, I think, and then where I saw, people were, like police were trying to taser him, and that's where it got him down.
Just after midday, there was a devastating police statement.
It is with great sadness that I confirm that one of those injured in the incident, a 13-year-old boy, has died from their injuries. He was taken to hospital after being stabbed and sadly died a short while after. The events of this morning are truly horrific, and I cannot even begin to imagine how those affected must be feeling. My thoughts are with the injured, their families and the wider community as we all begin to come to terms with what has happened and try to understand what has happened here.
4 other people were injured. 2 were police officers with stab wounds, significant but not life-threatening injuries, but both needed surgery. Aerial pictures show a van that the man first crashed near the scene of the attack. Doorbell footage seems to show on the far right the moment it crashed, with someone in its path. The police said this wasn't a targeted attack, nor did they believe it was terrorism related. But a family expected their son to come home from school this afternoon with stories of his day. He didn't. The suspect is tonight in hospital under arrest on suspicion of murder. Police cannot question him at the moment because of the injuries he sustained. The Met said that as far as they know, he didn't have any prior contact with the police prior to this attack today, but they are still checking that. But all thoughts tonight are with the family suffering the loss of their son, who went out to go to school this morning and never made it back.
Lucy Manning, thank you. The King has carried out his first public engagement since revealing he has cancer. He and the Queen visited a cancer centre at University College London and met patients and staff. The King told One of the shock he felt when he was told he had the disease. The King's been having cancer treatment since early February. It hasn't been made public what kind of cancer he has. Here's Johnny Diamond.
It's been a while, but on a sunny morning in central London, the King rolled into town. One question on everybody's minds.
Sir, how are you feeling? Lovely to see you back. Wonderful to see you back.
The smile seemed to say it all. There's not normally this much attention paid to a royal visit, but this was the first by the King in a long time.
It's nice to see him out and about looking so well.
Nice to see him back to work.
Of course. We've all got to go work, haven't we? So obviously he's going to have to jump in sooner or later, love him. But no, it was nice to see him.
We're really excited to see that he's well enough to be out and about on this beautiful sunny day in London. And it's a bit of a special treat, really, and unexpected.
Inside the Cancer Treatment Centre, appreciation for a man still undergoing treatment. And time to chat with those who'd waited for him. The King giving every sign of enjoying his time out and about.
Sally's in charge of us.
The King heard about new ways to tackle cancer. He wants, the palace says, to encourage others to get tested early.
So the trouble is to get enough people early.
Yeah. So we have to invite...
A man who told the world about his diagnosis, hearing about the benefits of early treatment.
We're going to meet Leslie over here.
Then it was upstairs to meet those receiving chemotherapy, as the King asked after the health of patients. The questions kept coming back to him. But there was time too for talk, one patient to another, and for a moment of maybe mutual reassurance. as they left posies for the King and Queen from two of the youngest patients here. This was a relatively low-key return to public duties. You might call it a soft restart. And the palace has made it clear that what comes next depends on the King's health and the advice of his medical team. But he's clearly delighted to be back on the road. No word as to when the next engagement is, but the King clearly happy to be out in public again. Johnny Diamond, BBC News, Central London.
It's emerged tonight that a failed asylum seeker has become the first to be voluntarily sent to Rwanda. The migrant was flown on a commercial flight and given £3,000 to help relocate in Kigali. It is separate from the government's Rwanda plan to deport those arriving illegally in the UK to Rwanda. Well, our political correspondent Harry Farley is in Westminster. Explain exactly what has happened here for us, Harry.
Yes, Sophie, so this is not the Rwanda scheme that we've been talking so much about. That policy aims to forcibly deport those who have arrived in the UK illegally. This asylum seeker voluntarily went to Rwanda under a separate scheme that the government announced in March. And that scheme is for those whose asylum claims have been processed here in the UK and have been rejected. So this man was he was paid £3,000 to go and sent on a commercial flight. Labour, for their part, say that the government is so desperate to get flights off the ground that they've even paid someone to go. So I think the question is, how significant is this? Well, symbolically, it is the first time that someone has voluntarily been sent to Rwanda. So it is a big week for local elections, and so symbolically it is important. But remember, Rishi Sunak's pledge was to stop the boats. This particular asylum seeker will not affect that because he did not arrive in a small boat. This scheme won't affect that, and so it does not address Rishi Sunak's core pledge to stop the boats.
Harry, thank you. Two men from Cumbria have been charged in connection with the felling of the famous Sycamore Gap tree in Northumberland last September. 38-year-old Daniel Graham and 31-year-old Adam Carruthers have both also been charged with causing criminal damage to Hadrian's Wall. They're due to appear at Newcastle Magistrates Court next month. Our correspondent Alison Freeman reports.
It was possibly the most famous tree in the world. It even got a starring role in the Hollywood film Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
I am home! Woo! Woo!
But at the end of September last year, it was deliberately felled one night, causing an international outpouring of shock and dismay. Many came to see if it was true.
Everybody sort of feels very bereft about it, you know. I mean, who would do it, for goodness sake?
I feel I'm filling up now.
Today, Northumbria Police said they'd charged two men from Cumbria in connection with the felling of the tree, as well as causing criminal damage to Hadrian's Wall. Daniel Graham, who's 38, and Adam Carruthers, who's 31, were first arrested in October last year and are due before Newcastle magistrates on May the 15th.
Northumbria Police said it recognised the strength of feeling associated with the tree, but it reminded people not to speculate, particularly online, because it could have an impact on the ongoing case.
The tree may be gone, but it certainly still holds a place in the memories of many. Alison Freeman, BBC News, Northumberland.
The mother of a 23-year-old Israeli hostage who was seized from the Nova Music Festival has been speaking of the moment she saw him last week in a hostage video for the first time since he was taken to Gaza. Rachel Goldberg-Polin says Israel and Hamas must urgently agree a new ceasefire and a deal to release the hostages. But Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he's planning a ground offensive in Rafah in southern Gaza, regardless of the outcome. Anna Foster reports from the site of the Nova Music Festival in southern Israel.
207 days ago, this was a place of life. Each of these images is now just a memory. Among them, Hirsch Goldberg-Polin, taken hostage by Hamas.
I haven't slept more than 4 hours a night, and that's with drugs. That's with what our family doctor prescribed for us on the first day.
On October the 7th, Hirsch ran and hid in a concrete refuge by the roadside. This shelter is a few kilometres away from the festival site, so when people got here, they must have thought that they were safe. But they weren't, because Hamas gunmen threw grenades into this tiny space and the survivors were dragged out, put in a truck and taken as hostages. Hirsch was among them, bleeding badly, his arm missing its hand. Now, for the first time since that day, his parents have seen him again, speaking under duress in a video released by Hamas.
Obviously, it's Hirsch, but he's not recognizable. And so he was speaking in Hebrew. So all I was doing, as soon as I heard his voice, I started to cry because I haven't heard his voice in half a year. And to see him moving and to see that he is clearly medically compromised. I don't even know what I was saying. I was just like making noises and crying, and John was crying.
A deal on the table would free around 30 more hostages and see a ceasefire in Gaza, but both Israel and Hamas need to accept.
We know it's hard. We know it's painful. We also know we can't move forward until this is dealt with. And I think in the entire region, we have so much tension and so much conflict. And one way to just twist the button and relieve pressure and tension in the entire region is to get these 133 cherished souls back home.
It's another moment for hope, but there's caution too, in case this deal crumbles like others have before. So what is the status of those negotiations tonight? Well, the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is back in Israel once again with a dual purpose, he says, to try and get more much-needed aid into Gaza, but also to try and give extra impetus to those talks. He's described the Israeli deal that's on the table as extraordinarily generous. It's hoped that around 30 hostages could be released. The ceasefire could last as long, potentially, as 6 weeks. Now, we expect to hear perhaps tomorrow Hamas's response to that, and then I think we'll have a clearer idea of whether the two sides are close enough to try and negotiate a new agreement, or whether, once again, any hope of a deal will just evaporate, Sophie.
Anna Foster, thank you. Donald Trump has been fined $9,000 for contempt of court after repeatedly attacking witnesses and jurors at his criminal trial in New York. The judge warned that he could face jail if he does it again. Our North America editor Sarah Smith is outside the courthouse in New York for us now. Sarah.
Yeah, Donald Trump has got until the end of the week to pay that fine, and it seems he's already taken down the social media posts in which he was attacking his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, the adult film star Stormy Daniels, even the jury pool here in New York. He's not allowed to go after witnesses in this trial, court staff or jurors. And when he breaches that order, that's when the judge can fine him. He left here a short while ago, though, complaining about this order, saying that it was totally unconstitutional as part of this corrupt trial and conflicted judge, he said. But the gag order, he claims, isn't fair because he's running for president and he has to be allowed to speak out. Well, the judge has been very clear, actually, that his political comments are protected for that very reason. But what he can't do is go after witnesses, jurors or court staff. And the judge did say that he's rather disappointed he can't fine him anymore. He can only impose a fine of $1,000 for each breach of the order, 9 times, in this case, $9,000. But he said that's not very much money for a wealthy defendant like Donald Trump. It's not much of a deterrent. So he was very clear that if necessary and appropriate, he said, he would send Mr. Trump to jail if that was the only way to stop him breaching this gag order. And in fact, the prosecution's already come up with 4 more examples of where they say he's breached it. And there's going to be a hearing here in court about that on Thursday.
Sarah, thank you. The death of a 14-year-old boy in London today is a timely reminder of the number of people, particularly young men and boys, who are stabbed to death every year in the UK. There were around 250 fatal stabbings in England and Wales last year alone. And for every life lost, there are, of course, many more left shattered by grief. Our correspondent Dan Johnson has spent the past few months piecing together the long-term impact that knife crime has on families and communities. He has been speaking to the mother of a 16-year-old, Mikey Roynan, who was stabbed to death last summer. You may find parts of his report distressing.
This is Mikey's bedroom. It's untouched, exactly as it was the day he went. The trainers, All of his clothes hung over the banister. All of it. All memories.
This is the story of a young life lost to knife crime at just 16.
One thing that's really hard is that I'll never ever be called mum again.
10th of June last summer, and teenagers are heading to a birthday party in Bath that's been advertised on Snapchat. This is Mikey travelling from the edge of Bristol with some friends. He was about to come across this group of teenagers from Wiltshire heading to the same party.
I've known Mikey since probably say about 12, 13.
This friend of Mikey's was with him.
Got to the party, yeah, the vibes sound happy, it's a sound party. And then, yeah, it just all went downhill.
We may never know exactly what sparked the confrontation, but at the back of the house, Mikey was stabbed in the back of his neck.
He had blood coming out of his mouth, everyone was just shouting, screaming. All we knew was that he's been stabbed somewhere in his chest or his neck.
As he collapsed on the road, neighbours tried to save Mikey's life.
The only thing he could say was that he is dying.
I rang Mikey's phone and his friend answered and he said, Mikey's been stabbed. And he said, he's gone, Hayley, he's gone. And I put the phone down on him because I didn't want to hear that. I didn't believe it.
Oh dear, let me talk up and make things clear.
This is Mikey in a music video for his own song called Oh Dear. It had gone viral and was played at the party shortly before the attack.
He wore a balaclava, he hung around in a big group of lads. He did, but it didn't mean he was going to go out and stab someone or he was going to have a weapon on him.
So this is where Mikey used to come all the time.
Mikey's wider family are feeling the impact of his death.
I'm so proud that I was his older cousin, and still now he makes me so proud. So yeah, he was a little star.
In March, one of these 16-year-olds was convicted of murder, 2 of manslaughter. The jury agreed. This footage showed they were carrying knives hidden in their tracksuits.
Why would you take a knife to a 16-year-old's birthday party? Why would you need to have a knife in a house party? Yeah, that is shocking, really shocking.
When I was 16, even younger, 14, I thought it was so cool to have like a naughty boyfriend or hang around with naughty people. You might think you're cool because your boyfriend gets arrested and he's cool and he drives stolen cars or even carries a knife, but it affects so many other people's lives. The scariest thing is you think who's next, and that sounds so horrible, but you do, you genuinely sit there and you think who's next.
When I'm alone, I do chat to him. Sometimes I just sit on my phone and look at pictures or videos of him. I felt numb. Yeah. Like he'll come walking back in the door. I've always said it. Still feel it. Well, I hope.
Do you think that'll ever go?
No. No.
Do you want it to?
No. No, I don't. His shoes are still by the back door. His work boots are still by the front door. Just in case. Yeah.
The devastation caused by knife crime. That report was by Dan Johnson. Now, she became one of the faces of the anti-government protests that swept across Iran in 2022. Just 16 years old, Nika Shakari went missing during a demonstration against wearing the veil. Her body was found 9 days later. The Iranian government claimed at the time that she had killed herself, but now a BBC Eye investigation has uncovered evidence that she was killed and sexually assaulted by undercover agents working for Iran's security forces. Rhea Kansara reports.
This is the moment an ordinary teenage girl became an Iranian icon. Nika Shakari is banning the hijab as part of the Women Life Freedom movement that swept Iran in September 2022. 9 days later, her mother found her dead. At the time, the Iranian government claimed that Nika had killed herself. But BBC Eye Investigations has obtained a document telling a very different story. It appears to be a classified report from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, part of Iran's security forces. We've translated it into English, and it summarises a secret hearing on Nika's case. According to the document, Nika was hunted down and arrested by Team 12, one of many undercover units at the protest. She was put in the back of their vehicle, an unmarked freezer truck, with her hands bound. The report includes the direct testimony of Team 12, explaining what happened next.
Arash gagged her mouth with his socks. I saw Sadiq was sitting on her, with his hands in her pants.
She kicked at my face, so I had to defend myself.
I could hear the sound of the baton hitting her.
Is she breathing? I think it was Behruz who answered, no, she's dead.
We cross-checked the document's contents with geolocated videos from the protest, Nika's death certificate, and her mother's testimony.
Her face and cheekbones were broken. Her teeth were knocked out, and the back of her head had been hit so hard it caved in. That's what killed her, the damage to her head.
We also showed the document to multiple experts, and overall, despite a few inconsistencies, they said it looks genuine. One expert agreed to test the report's ID number with his own sources inside the IRGC.
This report is a small part of a 322-page case file. The report number is from a judicial investigation about the rioters in 2022. They confirm this.
Is there any way that document could be a fake?
No, it's nothing. It's original and we accept that.
The document also reveals the hearing's conclusion, that sexual assault caused the fight in the rear compartment, and that strikes from Team 12 caused the death of Nika Shakari. None of Team 12 received any punishment for her death. We put our allegations to the IRGC and the government of Iran. They did not respond. Raha Kansara, BBC News.
China is intensifying its attacks on Filipino boats in disputed waters in the South China Sea. A BBC crew was on board a Coast Guard ship when a Chinese vessel repeatedly used water cannon to try to drive the Filipino ship away. And this is where it happened, within this 200-mile zone created by the UN, which guarantees both countries access to fishing and mineral and oil reserves. But China refuses to accept this, claiming most of this area as its own, along with a number of islands off the Philippines. Now, this recent attack happened here in an area called Scarborough Shoal. Our correspondent Jonathan Head was there on board a Philippines Coast Guard ship when it was hit by Chinese water cannon, damaging the vessel.
Get inside, get inside, get inside, get inside, faster!
This is how China defends its claim to the entire South China Sea. Water cannon raking the deck of a Filipino Coast Guard ship, soaking everyone. We were just off Scarborough Shoal, a coral reef that's claimed by both countries, but much closer to the Philippines.
And Philippine national laws over.
This Coast Guard ship has already attacked our ship once. It's water cannon and blasted the decks. As you can see, it's spraying water in the air. That's a threat. It's very likely it's going to come back and hit us again. The Chinese attacks continued for half an hour. This is a familiar ordeal for these Filipino crew members who must conduct these missions while greatly outnumbered by the flotilla of Chinese ships outside. All morning we watched them shadowing us, and they watched us back, before moving in for a risky game of maritime cat and mouse. Well, this Chinese Coast Guard ship has come so close now, there's only perhaps 40 or 50 metres between us. This is a very aggressive tactic. The Philippines crew are preparing to throw buoys over the side in case there's a collision between the two. Look how close it's coming. After years of relative inaction, the Philippines is now pushing back against China's dominance in these waters, encouraged by the firm backing it's had from the United States. The Chinese presence here is overwhelming, though. In the end, our ship was forced to return to Manila. And there's always the possibility that these increasingly combative encounters in this strategically sensitive region escalate into something bigger. Jonathan Head, BBC News, in the South China Sea.
Now, there may be no English teams left in the Champions League, but two of England's biggest stars, Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham, were in action tonight when Bayern Munich took on Real Madrid in the semi-final. Joe Linsky was watching.
And in 5 second-half minutes, they found who wants it most. This year's finals at Wembley, perhaps...
Time for a look at the weather now. Thomas Schaffenacker is here. Hello.
Sophie, hello. Thank you. Good evening to you. It's quite a tricky forecast, a lot of detail to focus on. But I think to sum up, it's going to be a mixed bag. Certainly some sunshine in the forecast, but also some rain at times. Now, if we look at the forecast for tonight, there is a weather front out towards the west, so that'll produce some rain around Wales, perhaps the Irish Sea. We've also got a few showers along the North Sea coast. But for most of us, it's actually going to be a dry night, be it a little bit misty and murky through the early hours. Temperatures between 10 and 8 degrees Celsius. So tomorrow, many of us wake up to some sunshine, hazy sunshine, but along the North Sea coast, I think it's going to stay quite cloudy and also a chance of catching some rain. And then inland anyway, through the afternoon, we could see some showers developing. Quite a temperature contrast because the wind is blowing out of the east. It's dragging in the colder air off the North Sea. So these coastal strips will be quite chilly, but the higher temperatures will be further inland and towards the west. And then Wednesday evening and through the early hours of Thursday, we're expecting showers and thunderstorms across more southern parts of the UK. So here they are. This is from around about 5 p.m. You can see it's already raining across some southwestern areas of the UK, but the really heavy rain comes in probably after midnight, reaches the southern counties, sweeps into perhaps just about the South Midlands and also into southern Wales. It could be torrential downpours, gusty winds, hail, excuse me, that sort of thing. And then on Thursday, further showers, I think, across the south of the UK. The easterly wind is still with us, so it continues to drag in that cooler air. It's only 13 in Newcastle, but in Liverpool, it could be as high as 20 degrees Celsius. Now, the outlook is going to be a mixed bag. I know there's a lot of rain icons here, but I think there will be some sunshine around too, so it's certainly not raining all the time. The temperatures looking around the average for the time of the year. Back to you.
I hope there's some sunshine in amidst that. Thank you, Thomas. And that's it from the BBC News at 10. Newsnight is just getting underway on BBC Two with Victoria. On BBC One, it's time to join our colleagues for the news where you are. Good night.
Thanks, Sophie. On BBC London, the community in mourning after a rampage by a man wielding a sword in Hainault. Good evening, I'm Alice Bhandhukravi. More on the attack which unfolded in northeast London this morning, in which a 14-year-old boy was killed and 4 others, including 2 police officers, were injured. Police were called shortly before 7 a.m. to reports of a vehicle being driven into a house on Thurlow Gardens near Hainault Tube Station. Then reports of multiple stabbings came in, with images surfacing on social media of a man carrying a sword. 22 minutes after the first 999 call, police tasered and arrested a 36-year-old man. Lakshmi Gopal has been speaking to some of those who witnessed what happened.
A neighbourhood suddenly in the spotlight, a community shaken by the attack, particularly those who saw the horror firsthand.
The man got out with a samurai sword. He tried to talk to one female resident. She ran away from him. As he's pulled the sword out in the air, she's tried to warn the other neighbour.
People were running off the street, they were running into the station, and somebody said, get inside, get inside. There's a guy with a machete.
Manpreet Singh was stuck within the police cordon at his office inside Hainault Tube Station earlier, so spoke to me via video call.
I saw about 5 or 6 people just going in and out of the station, out of the street. as if they were trying to fight off with someone. And then one of the guy was already stabbed. He was holding his neck, and he was a big guy as well. And he was holding his neck, and he was like, I've been stabbed. And can you call the, he told the guy at the station, can you give me something to hold on the blood onto? It was horrific. I've never seen something like that in 15 years of my life in this area.
Just up onto the pavement and speak to the officer in the high-vis just down there, OK?
This mother spent hours holed up at home, terrified this morning, before she found out the suspect had been detained.
I don't know, it's happened just near me, and I'm staying in the house 3 hours in my room, and I don't know what happened.
Sergei Plotmitsky didn't want to take any chances, so accompanied his wife on the way to work today.
Being scared, so I offered her to take her to the next station, tube station, to the Fairlop. So we took a walk just to be on the safe side. Yeah, I saw neighbours as well. Everyone is terrified.
It's like everywhere though, isn't it? But you don't think it's going to happen on your doorstep.
Christine Malt has lived in the area for 25 years. The news of the death of the 14-year-old boy hit her hard.
I've got 3 grandkids that live in it with me, and they both go out at the same time it roughly happened. But I didn't know that at the time till I got up and realised it, but it could have been them. So.
Families on their way home from the school run tried to process the tragedy.
The whole community is in shock. It's very out of character of the area. It's a very quiet area, very residential. So, yeah, to know that such a young boy has obviously lost his life is very sad. Yeah, so we're just all in shock.
Do you think there's something that needs to be done to help the community come to terms with this?
I think the main thing is just reassuring people, and obviously because it's such a shock, just letting people know that they're safe to carry on with their normal lives. Yeah, I think the police, their presence is a big thing. That's the main thing, really.
The police say they'll continue their significant presence in the area, reassuring residents coming home and coming to terms with what happened. Lakshmi Gopal, BBC London.
Well, the incident has left people all over London in shock, including the political candidates vying to be mayor in Thursday's election. They gave their reactions, as our political correspondent Carl Mercer reports.
In 2 days' time, Londoners will elect their next mayor. Today, an election is far from many people's thoughts, with a 14-year-old boy being mourned and thoughts for 2 other civilians and the 2 police officers injured.
You know, since I received the first phone call, I've not thought about the election. Genuinely, this really isn't about the election. There is a family who've lost a child, and I think that should be where our focus is. I'm reassured that an arrest was made quickly. I'm reassured there's no ongoing threat. We've got 2 officers who are in surgery right now. That should be our focus, rooting for their well-being, and those other 2 members of the public.
His Conservative opponent was campaigning in Dagenham. Her thoughts too with those affected.
I think it's absolutely devastating, and of course our thoughts and prayers go to those that have been affected and their families. It's not a time for politics, it's a time to think about those that rush towards danger, and you know, we must be grateful to the police for doing that.
The Green and Lib Dem candidates for mayor had similar thoughts.
I'm absolutely horrified and really saddened by what I've seen in Hainault, and just my thoughts are with the young person's family, their friends, but also the community. Like, events like this rip through communities.
Awful to hear about the death of a 13-year-old boy. My heart goes out to the family and friends of that boy, and thank you very much, of course, to the police for bravely going on to tackle the man.
A time perhaps of reflection and a short pause in party politics. Carl Mercer, BBC London.
Well, on your screens now is a full list of all the candidates standing to be London's mayor, and that list is also available on our website. A check on the weather now with Kirsty McCabe.
Good evening. It really did feel glorious in the sunshine today, despite the breeze. However, things are changing. As we go through the night tonight, a fair bit of cloud around, maybe the odd shower or 2. For most, though, it's looking dry, frost-free, overnight lows around, say, 9 to 11 Celsius. Now, as we head through tomorrow, things are a little bit tricky. It's dry initially, but I think we'll see the clouds tending to build through the day and some outbreaks of rain moving in. The rain heaviest out towards the west. Could even be a rumble of thunder later, and the temperatures peaking around, say, 20, where we get the sunshine, but there's not going to be as much of it around through tomorrow. And the outlook as we go into the bank holiday weekend, not so promising. Certainly going to be some rain at times, but feeling warm where we do get the sunshine.
Well, Well, there's more on the day's events on our website and on the BBC News app. From everyone on the team, thanks for watching. Good night.
How's things in Belfast? Bit mad?
Yeah, a bit mad. Looks like there might be a new player in town.
Tensions are high. We're policing an area that could explode at any minute.
Coming here is an insult to this community.
Blue Lights. Press red for all episodes on BBC iPlayer.
Couldn't help but notice your bust on the desk.
You heard any funny noises coming from in there?
Yeah, and we had front row seats.
If you hear this door open, I'd hide if I were you.
Just tell me what you want. I don't know where